while doing that, and yeah, I'm like, is there Wi-Fi? And then this lady's like, no, yes, there is. Try and connect, and it gave me the coordinates and stuff, and we were done. It's like, first time here. I'm like, yeah, first time here. I was like, trying to give me just a summarized orientation. Was okay. The same elevators you use to take them, you're on the 6th floor type of thing. So I had to come back to these couches and put back my purse in my backpack and then put it, and then off I went. So as soon as I came back, I could, people were like, hey, but that day, man, I was cute. I can take a good 3 minutes explaining how cute I was that day. My God. My God, I was fine. Even though I say myself, even what does that sound? If I do say so myself, if I do say so myself. Stand alone in the shit. So yeah, I was fine that day, man. Oh, I was fine. When you look good and you look like you didn't put any effort. You know what I'm trying to say? That was me that day. I looked fine. I looked fine, man, but it also looked like I did not put any effort whatsoever. Yeah, I looked fine, man. Damn. I can insert a picture just to show you the outfit, but it is not a true reflection of how gorgeous I looked that day. I look gorgeous for days. I had my green. So there was this green thingy that, so I wore this high-waisted pants that are like ankle type of vibe, and then I had those heels, but I took off those heels and then I wore sandals, but I was still within, that thing, because those were my good sandals. So, and then off I went. Oh, we're in like 30 minutes already into this, 27 minutes into this video, but it's fine. It's about to finish. I went up to my room, I freshened up, and then I went to Gator because it was early. It must have been 3:30 or so. Now, who loves the party at 3:30? Because the party is about to begin. It's not even about to begin. It's still early stages of a party at half past 3. People are still, okay. People haven't even gotten to a stage of, being tipsy or, just feeling warm and nice. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. That's just me. That's why I'm saying I'm antisocial AF. So I went and I freshened up, and then I went to H&M and Zara. I got just a few items, and I was back to my room before it was dark. Showered, and then I went for dinner. Now that's where the activities began. So I went for dinner. As I went for dinner, I'm just hoping, I don't know how I thought my hopes were, we're gonna give way. So I was just hoping when I get there, the team wasn't gonna be there. It's a big football team. One of the teams from our beautiful province. So I wasn't quite acquainted with the players for the team, to be honest with you. I wasn't. And it's strange because, man, not at that stage I hadn't made eye contact with this bunch of testosterone in that room, but I knew I don't know much. I don't know many players there, which is strange, very strange for someone who's into football like this. But I didn't, and it makes sense. It will make sense just now. So I got that the team was there. The team was still there, and they had this long table. There were about 2 or 3 tables. So I got there, and then I asked the waitress, and I'm like, what do I do? Do I go join them? They're like, no, you have a separate menu. Bona, they had a buffet prepared for them, and I was going to get a la carte. I don't know, But yeah, it didn't matter. So I got there. I started with my first course, like a three course meal. I started with my thingy. So I sat at the table by the door, closer to the door. You know what I mean? So, but not very far off, because it was also not a huge dining area. It was just an okay dining area, but I could just suss out with how many tables are here type of vibe. So now I'm sitting down. I'm starting with my main course, and mostly all the eyes are on me. Mostly all the eyes were on me in a way. Because I'm the only girl amongst how many people? A team is made up of like 11 players and mhlambe 6 substitutes, and there's like a technical team. There's like the coach, assistant coach, there's like kid manager, there's like goalkeeper coach, there's like, I'm just from the top of my head, so you can imagine how many people were there. Okay. And then I'm sitting there, starting with my meals, getting on with my business, just minding myself, looking cute AF. And then this guy approaches me. It's not the guy we're talking about, but just tune in, listen, follow through. This other guy approaches me. I learned his name after that. When I'm like looking, I'm like watching the football, I'm like, this is the nigga. This is exactly the nigga who approached me in the table. This thing of, they're seeing this fine girl sitting there and then probably having a conversation within them, amongst themselves, and they're like, no, I'm not scared of her. I'm going to go there, Mina, I'm going to approach her type of thing. And then he came and sat, and it was like, can I join you type of thing. So I was like seated where the table, my table was like almost opposite with the technical team's table, but at the time I didn't know it was a technical team's table, but it kind of like makes sense because they were old, if you know what I'm trying to say. Like they were like old babas in the table as well, so I assumed. So this guy approached me. I was like, can I join you? And then I'm like trying to respond at the same time. I'm like, this is awkward type of thing. And then they called him out. They're like, hey, no, don't do that type of thing, the technical team table. And I'm like, I was like, thank you for saving me, because I didn't know what to say. I'm not one to say, no, you don't do that. No, you don't do that in those type of situations. You try and be nice. You try and manage the situation and just respond in a nice way. So I was still like, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I think I said, oh, okay. And then they're like, hey, so and then off he went. And then fast forward, the lads were done eating, and there was like an immediate exodus, a huge exodus, and they went off. But there was a table that remained. Now, that's when these activities took place. There was a table that remained. And then I was a little bit relieved in a way, Yoguti. 80% of this men or these lads or people wearing the same thing. I don't know if I kept mentioning that there were a lot of niggas wearing the same things, and that was intimidating. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that, but I'm telling you, it is intimidating. And I'm generally a person who's shy. And some people don't believe that just because I can do other things so well, they think I'm not shy. I just stand up and then just, share my mind in meetings or do presentations and be a trainer. I've worked as a trainer, things like that. I'm just trying to pinpoint situations that had me standing in front of people and talking or teaching or sharing myself or preaching or praying or whatever you're trying to say. And then people look at that and they think, wait, you're not shy, and they laugh at me when I say I'm shy. What are you trying to say? I am shy. So I was, but I'm chewing, I'm eating there. I look like I had everything under control, but I wasn't. I had nothing under control. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I know these people are looking at me, and I'm eating. But as soon as, that exodus took place, I had a breather. but I was continuing with my meals in between my 3 course, type of thing. And then I could, from that point, the technical team table were like 6, at most, or 5. Now that was doable. There weren't other guests. I did not see any other guests. I guess, a lot of rooms were taken by the team. So now I could breathe. Now I could, just look around and try and just, see what is happening. Just check my surroundings type of vibe. I noticed there was one person, one mother, blessed person looking at me consistently. Okay? Now, I said, who wasn't checking me out when I began with the story? I said, who wasn't looking at me? But then I noticed that with him, and I'm like, who isn't looking at me? It's probably nothing. He kept on staring, literally stared that entire time. He was looking at me, continue having conversation with his gents in his table, but he would still watch me from a distance. And I'm like, who is this now? I'm probably thinking, no, it's probably because I'm seated by the door. He's not even looking at me, he's just looking my way type of thing. I'm trying to, make the situation look less of, what it was. So I'm like, no, he's probably looking my direction. It's not even looking. He looked at me. Sis, when I say he looked at me, he was checking me out. It came to a point where I couldn't finish my main course. And I was like, no, can I take this with me in my room? Every conversation I'm having with the waiter, it was a waiter at the time, no longer a waitress. I bet he had everything, that nigga. He had every conversation because he was looking at me. I'm like, I'm going to have a problem here, Jesus. Who's this nigga looking at me? Okay, from a distance, I can't. From then, I couldn't tell whether he was cute. He was just a human being, like, there wasn't, I didn't notice anything from that point. Hey, he kept on looking at me. He kept on looking at me. Okay, I was done. But when I checked in earlier and I wanted to connect to the Wi-Fi, I couldn't connect with the coordinates they gave me. So when I stood up, so then the guy who was helping me said, okay, what about your dessert? I'm like, is it possible if I take it up to my room as well? And then he said, no, it's fine. I'm going to sort it out for you. I'm like, it's a lot to carry. No, it's fine. No, I'll accompany you to your room, said the waiter. So as he was preparing the meals and putting them in containers and things like that, I stood and I went to the reception desk. Standing up and doing everything and taking my key and everything. This nigga was looking at me. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, now I was I was kind of sure, no, he is checking me out. So I went out, and then I was at the reception desk. I'm trying to connect. I don't know what was happening, but I had difficulties connecting to the Wi-Fi. So, and then eventually I got connected, and I got connected at the time the guy from the kitchen came with my food. They stood up from the table, him and this other guy, I think his colleague. So they stood up at the same time. So I don't know whether he planned it. I don't know. We stood up at the same time as the guy came, and I was also approaching the elevator section, and I was walking behind him. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Then I kind of got to see him in a way. And I'm like, damn. I'm walking behind him. I'm like, Jesus flipping Christ. What is this? If he happens to see this video, I don't know. But he looked fine. He looked fine AF. So I'm like, this lama tracksuits abafana bebola, like this team tracksuits, vela abafana engemile kahle umfana wabantu. I hope my mom is not going to watch this video. Mom, if you are watching this video, stop watching it. Please stop watching it. God is going to see you. If you continue, God is going. I hope my mother's not watching this video. Oh, my mom is not watching this video. Mom, don't. Please stop watching the video. Hey, but the nigga was fine. I'm a shy person. Let me still say, even, when it comes to boys, I'm still a shy person. I'm like, oh, damn. I'm like, Lord, you know what I want. You know what I like. What is this? Is it Satan? Are you trying to tempt me, Satan? Oh my God. I'm like, this nigga is hella fine. I got a type here. And he was just that. I've learned not to go for my type. I'm just mentioning. Nigga was fine AF. So we were following each other now. Me with the guy carrying things. Me with my phone, and I had to carry, I think, the dessert part of it because I had leftovers from the starter. They had wings for starter. Like, it was a lot of food. So I'm helping him carry, or vice versa, he's helping me carry. So there was a situation that wanted us to get into this lift separately, but the nigga forced to kind of like, you could just tell when Nisigwele lived or Izogwala, but he kind of like wanted to be in the same elevator with me. Okay. Another thing I'm realizing, yeah, Jesus Christ. Another thing I'm realizing is that I shared the story on Facebook, and people I have on Facebook will remember, this reference, and they'll be like, oh, that's your baby daddy. We didn't know. That's your baby daddy. We remember the story because I enjoy narrating, so I just wrote it out, and I'm like, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. So as soon as we got to the lift, right, the situation also wanted us standing next to each other like this. But him, being the nigga that he is, he did not stand like this. He tried and stood rather opposite me. You know what I mean? So he could look at me dead in my eyes. So I was going to the 6th floor. They were going further. I'm not quite sure which floor they were going to. So as soon as, now I'm like in the thing of, I want to find out if this nigga was looking at me or not. If he's still looking at me right now, then it confirms that he was checking me out. So I'm standing there like, I'm like, okay, let me lift up my eyes. So, because, we're standing like this with this nigga, him and his friend. So they were having conversations before getting to the lift. So now it's dead silent. You could hear a pin drop at that particular point because nobody's saying shit. Nobody's saying anything. We're just standing like this. So this was me, like, and the nigga from the kitchen on some. So I'm like, I'm going to lift up my eyes. If this mother blessed nigga is looking at me, then he was them checking me out. And I'm like, I saw him. I swear to God, he looked at me with his eyes, man. Nobody has ever looked at me like he did. He looked at me with this. It's like his eyes pierced through me. I'm like, this is Satan. I'm like, Satan's work. This is the work of the devil. Just know. He looked at me and I could straightforward. I felt some type of, and I'm like lifting my eyes and he's dead looking at me like he's not talking. He's like sitting there. I'm like, what the F? I'm like, what the F? I'm like thinking, and I could just feel my breath just coming out of me. I know I'm exaggerating, but there was just something, the way he looked at me. I'm like, and then I looked away because I'm shy, man. I'm like, I'm not one to just stare at the person like directly. And then I looked away, and then obviously we were like close. And then I think the guy he was with noticed that there was something happening. I think even this guy noticed, and he said some small talk. This other guy's like, said something like, oh, can we visit you, type of thing, because he could see good now this person I was having a conversation with is not saying anything, but instead he's piercing through this girl's face, type of thing. So he tried to make some small talk. I can't remember, but it was something like, can we visit you, what room number, type of thing, because he could see what his gent was like. His gent was like taken. He was just staring. So at the same time, at the same time when this guy made some, comments, made those small talk, it was the sixth floor. I, was about to get out of the elevator, and then not saying anything with this guy. I'm like, thank you, sure, bruh, thank you for like, things. And then he left, and I said to him, who is this? Why is he looking at me like that? Fast forward, this is already 45 minutes. Wow. Fast forward to the next day in the morning. I went for breakfast. The team was there. They were playing that day. Because now I went and Googled. I saw they had a game that day. So they were there having breakfast, and I was also having breakfast. But we were having breakfast from the same menu and everything. So, we were like self-serving type of thing. So as I was getting juices and anything, but now it wasn't at night, it was like the next day, and then I had my green shirt as well, and I wore this other nice skirt of mine, and I guess the nigga looked at me from wearing pants. Oh, she looked nice with pants, and now she's wearing a skirt. Like, not up to my knee type of skirt, nothing kinky or anything, but it was a good skirt. It's a good one, nice. One of my, so I was like, cute again, because now I was like, now I had reasons. I'm like, somebody's checking me out, and I don't know who he is. So if anything, I still, I need to continue being cute, because now I'm sort of like now, I just want to see how this is going to end, because I see something is happening. I sat as we were having breakfast. Undu joined me. When Undu joined me, I think he was walking out. I'll tell you, okay. I was having breakfast. And then blah blah blah, he was still seated with the guys, but what he did different this time around, he came from where they were seated in the table, and he came to the chair closer to my table, but still far, not in my table, still a chair just closer to my and he continued staring, and he looked at me like on daylight, like on broad daylight, like he looked at me straight now, now. He was like, to hell with everything, I'm just going to sit here. And he looked at me, I'm like eating, and I even smiled. I'm like, oh, gosh. And he could, so now he could, I think from that stage, he knew that I saw him, that he was looking at me from he left, because he looked at me, and I'm like, and I'm like, I don't know whether this guy uses muti or what the F with him. And then I looked away. Now, brother. Like ilanga liphumile, we can just sibonane kahle. And he sat there and he looked at me, and I'm like, this time around, I'm going to look back. Guess what? I'm going to look back. He looked at me, and then I looked at him, and then I smiled and I looked away. I smiled and I looked away. I shouldn't have smiled. I smiled and I looked away. And then he was like, he stood up from there, and he was doing some signs of Puma. And I was supposed to go join him. Did I go? I don't know. I'm not that girl. He went up, and then I looked at him. It was the dead signs like it's going on. By the time he went out, Undu was coming to breakfast. And then as soon as, he came, and as soon as she came to the table, Undu, I remember the words she uttered. I'm not sure whether she can still remember. And also, she's the person who's going to figure this out, because she was there. In as much as she was not aware of what was happening, because it was happening while she was not with me. So as soon as she came in, she was like, hey, jokingly, hey, I did not say anything like, you see that guy? He was checking me out. At the time this was happening, I was also, in a long distance relationship that wasn't working out. It was kind of dead at the time. I was still just holding on to it, because I'm just me. So I knew somehow I was enjoying what was happening, and the timing wasn't bad. Technically, I was still in the dead relationship, low vibrational relationship. But I honestly knew it just wasn't working. I just go back, live, go back type of situation, but I knew it wasn't working and I had not seen him in like months. This is a story for another day. Because seeing him depended on whether the team was playing in Durban or not. It's a long story. We want to have a conversation some other time. So I didn't follow the guy, and because I'm just not that type of girl. And we eventually got to talk. When we got to talk, we were just, reflecting on all those moves and like, no, I tried doing this and then you didn't follow. I'm like, I was never going to follow you. I'm just not that type of girl. I'm old school AF. And as much as, I can just look at the guy and like him, and then that's just going to be about it. I'm not going to try. The only thing I can do, I can just follow them on social media. That's the only thing. That is as far as I can go. Follow them on social media or, type of thing like that. So we ended up not, and then I didn't follow him. And then he came back and got, I think his guys, and they went up. I think they were also preparing to go to the stadium and things like that. So that was about it. But that's how things happened. When he looked at me that day, especially the next morning, Nami, I could, now look at him. I didn't know who he was, where he came from. I just knew he's with this team, things like that. But I just looked at him that day. I'm like, I can marry this guy. I'm like, I can marry. I had no idea. Absolutely had no idea. I met him so I could have this cute boy. When I'm teasing him, I'll be like, so you were looking at me that day at the hotel because you were looking at me that day because you wanted to get me pregnant. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. I say, baby, and things like that. I'm like, so all of that, I knew there must have been a cause why that was happening like that. I'm just somebody who's, I sometimes look beyond the surface of things. I look beyond. I'm like, there must be a reason why this guy was doing this, but I didn't know at the time. Couple of months after, a few months after I'm pregnant, somebody needs to tell me why that happened. But I'm not. We'll have a conversation, a separate video conversation of how that happened and how I got pregnant, because I even had no idea I was pregnant. I still was in denial because, there was no way. I took all the precautions. I'm like, there is absolutely no way I could be pregnant. Now, the cute boy is there. The boy, I love him to death. I usually say, even in my mind, I'm like, my baby daddy don't owe me anything. If we were to be honest, he does not owe me anything. He gave me that boy when I did not even realize I needed him. It's not even something he had planned. I can attest to that. We did not plan Jack. We did not plan anything about getting pregnant. We had just met and things like that. And then I have this boy. Wow, this boy changed my life, like my little boy now. I'm talking about my baby. And I'm grateful to God. Sometimes God gives us what we need instead of what we want. Because my wants were different. I'm like, I want to get a good nigga, get, stable in a relationship and probably get married before I could have a kid. But God knew that I needed this baby. Like, he knew he was going to complete my life. He was going to make me feel the way I'm feeling right now, because he changed my life. That boy changed my life. Because had he had a conversation with me, I was going to be like, God, no. I was at the time where I had just gotten my new car. I was feeling myself. I'm on top of things. I'm cute. I'm doing, like, I'm vibing. I had just gotten a new car, for heaven's sake. Mamita. It's like God was like, I need to stop you, child. I need to stop you, because I'm looking at this pace you go. Like, I'm fine, man. I'm enjoying. I'm just getting to a stage where I'm like, I'm getting to a stage of being a polished driver. I'm in freeway. I'm dressing all kinds of nice. I'm playing Tupac music. I'm just pumping 50 Cent and G Unit, because that's my type of vibe. I'm just gangster like that. I believe I am gangster like that. So I'm feeling myself. My car is nice. My car is flipping new. It's 2019. I'm driving a 2019 car type of vibe. It's prestige car. I'm like, everything was going for me. Everything was going for me except I didn't have, a good relationship type of thing. Hence I said I was in that, but I didn't care because the relationship does not make who I am. It does not make me, it does not complete me. If anything, I felt like, man, I'm just here. I made, and then I was like, okay, God, so it's which you are in charge because mengaxoxa nje nestori sakhona sokuthi how I got pregnant, you'll be like, really? If God wants you to have that baby, you're going to have that baby. At his time, uNkulunkulu uyazi kuthiwa he's always on time. I'm like, there was a time and there were people I met that we could do things like this and I never got pregnant, even though we did things like this. Not that I was looking for a baby, but I was just being careless with whatever I was doing. I'm like, not that, in a situation where you're not looking for a baby, but you're just trusting God. And God remains faithful in this situation. But when you're like, I just got here. Nobody wants to start a relationship with a baby. Nobody. I wasn't looking for. I'm like, I just met this dude. Like, if anything, I just want to see where this is going. Also, we met while, I said I wasn't seeing this other person. It was like months, it was months, flipping months without seeing him. So when we met, I was like, we were also like, can we like get to know each other, girl type of thing, just really get to know. I had a baby. Anyway, this video is already long, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video and for being part of our family. Now you know me differently. Even the people who knew me in the black, now you know how I met my baby daddy. What if I just insert his picture here? I'm joking. I would never. I mean, let me just put it for like a couple of seconds and we'll go like flash and then it's out. But I know you're going like screenshot while that is happening. You'll watch a video a couple of times just so you get to a point and you're like screenshots. Even if I just flash it and then take it away. I know you all. So thank you so much for watching and thank you so much for becoming part of my family. We are still going to get busy here. I'm still going to have put out, a lot of content. And yeah, thank you so much. Comments, give it a huge thumbs up. And that's it from me. Until the next video. Bye bye.